So what's in the bag?
That's a nasty looking finger, lady.
You got the bait?
What? No.
Yeah, I got your fertilizer. We made you!
Welcome back, interweb friends. This is Stop the Movie I Want to Get Out. Hollywood makes bad movies. We make fun of them. I should really be doing air quotes when I say Hollywood on this one, but we'll move forward on that. I'm Alex Dunbar, joined as always by Cody Wolf.
Hey, keep it warm.
Christy Smorrell.
Let's just say I can read eyes.
Jack Estabrook.
I'm just seeing this movie. I feel like I got a big club up my ass. And it hurts.
This
and
is
I gotta get it out of there.
This is a movie of quotes. It's nothing but quotes.
There's some I can't even say on here. I wanted to.
Oh,
but
yeah.
They're a little too dirty.
Yeah, this is okay. So our movie is 1991 Samurai Cop. And I don't think none of us had seen this before. Am I right in saying that?
I'd seen clips, but not the whole film, no.
I had never heard of it.
I was aware of it. Well, because there's the Maniac Cop movies, which star Robert Z'Dar. And then I knew there's a Samurai Cop that starred Robert Z'Dar. So I was like, I didn't know if they were somehow related or if I assumed he was the Samurai Cop, but I guess I was wrong about that. It's just a coincidence.
Although
I can tell you,
samurai. Well,
yeah.
Samurai. Yeah.
I was incredibly confused because I thought that we were watching a time travel movie that Jack had been talking about in our chat, and I had no clue what I was watching.
I'll send you the link to that when we're done.
I will say before we do this, if you are a friend of the show who has been advocating for this movie for years, you are correct. I mean, right from the jump, people were telling me you should do this movie. I was telling these guys, I have a DVD downstairs that I've owned for at least 8 or 9 years. And it just kind of like, I don't know, it was like always a possibility, but then, yeah, holy cow. This is really something. I completely understand. So if you were one of those people who've been pushing this movie, yes, you can pat yourself on the back and feel good about it. This movie is 100% cuckoo. Let's go into it, because I want to say this movie did something that I've never had a movie happen to me during a movie. This movie made me laugh before anything had appeared on screen. The opening score made me laugh out loud. I was like, I have a note here. I'm like, is this the score from Mega Man 2?
I was gonna say Sonic the Hedgehog, because it's a very Sega Genesis type of a score.
Yeah.
I had the captions on while I was watching this, and it really cracked me up that I would say maybe 75% of the captions were just music noise, not music, not describing what kind of music, just music noise. Sometimes it was noise music, but
that's pretty accurate though to describe the music.
Yeah.
It's pretty good. Yeah.
Music noise.
Just noise. And then the movie goes into instant confusion. I mean, like a scene starts where I'm just instantly like, wait, what is happening? Like, there is no possible way an audience member could understand what is happening in this scene. And I'm like, I don't, this is. Okay.
I can't remember the first scene. What was the first scene?
They were tracking the drug dealers.
Well,
right?
No, there's something with Robert Z'Dar first, right?
There's Robert Z'Dar and this whole thing about deals between different gangs. And I'm like, what gang is what gang? And like, what is the problem here? Like, what's happening?
Mm.
It really made me think that this movie was edited out of order or something. Cause I'm like, there is no context as an audience member for what this scene is. And the scene gives you nothing to work.
Yeah. And you don't know who, at this point, I was still assuming Robert Z'Dar was Samurai Cop. So I thought, what I thought was going to happen, and I feel like there's other movies like this. I think Sergeant Kabuki Man is like this, is that he's a cop, he's going to get killed and then somehow come back to life. And he's a samurai, like in Maniac Cop, basically, but with a samurai. So I thought that's where this was going, but then it cuts after this scene. So it's basically like him talking to some like a gang leader for the Yakuza. And they were talking about, gangs and all this stuff. I really couldn't pick up on any of it. And then it cuts to the next scene, which is the actual samurai cop. And they're tracking drug dealers.
We do get a scene where Robert Z'Dar kills some guys. You know,
See, I totally forgot this whole scene.
Kills some guys, and like he just turns to a woman, like that red-haired woman, and goes, "The job is done."
And then it cuts immediately, doesn't it?
He goes, the job is done, and she goes, you did it. Cut. What did he do? Like?
Yeah, one of my favorite things about this movie is the cuts to between scenes, because it cuts like in the middle of what you think is a scene, and it'll just cut to the next thing, and it's like, oh, I guess that was done.
Yeah, scenes.
There's an amazing one later that we'll get to, but after a fight.
Yes. No scenes end. They just stop, and then another, like, and you're just instantly teleported. And they clearly didn't get enough like B-roll or like scene setters so that you could transition between scenes. Like you oftentimes go right from like a medium shot in a scene to just like a medium shot in another scene, like jarringly. And you're like, whoa, where am I?
Right.
By enough, you mean any.
Any, like any. And they did have a helicopter. They do use like shots from that helicopter during the scene. It's like, could you guys have rented that helicopter for another hour and got like a couple of scene setters?
I don't know.
Crazy. Okay, so now we go into a chase scene. It's kind of a chase scene. Well, it's a stakeout scene and a chase scene, I guess.
Yeah.
I don't know how, like, so like basically like a guy, and I think his name is Joe, and his partner. Joe is Samurai Cop, and his partner are following a van because they think it's going to be involved in a drug deal, and they also have a helicopter like unit above them as well, and they're kind of like tailing this unit, or tailing this van. But in a very weird way. This is also like, I love that we're introduced to this character while he's wearing a wig, because he's clearly in these opening shots wearing a horrendous wig.
Whole opening scene. The first 20 minutes of the movie is of just a wig.
Because later on he's swimming. Like, did he maybe cut his hair midway through? In some scenes, in some scenes it's a wig.
He cut it after the movie wrapped, or he thought the movie wrapped. Like 7 months later, he cut his hair. Then they called him like, "Oh, we need to finish this movie." And he's like, I cut my hair. So they went out and bought like a cheap wig, which he thought they were just doing pickups, but they shot like major sequences in the movie with him in a wig.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because some scenes you can tell it's the real hair, but because when it's the wig, it's very obviously a wig.
Oh, it is. Yeah, it's comically obvious.
They try to hide it under a hat, but it like somehow makes the wig even worse.
The random hat, and that was only like a scene or two. And yeah, the hat was bad.
When he's wearing it in the editing lab later on, it looks so goofy. It's like just kind of placed on the top of his head, like on top of that bad hair.
That is it. That's the problem, Cody, because the hat is not on the hat is not like under the wig is not under the hat. The hat is on the wig.
It's just like sitting on top of it. Yeah.
Because it was I in my notes, I'm like, is this a wig? Like right in that first scene, I'm like, why are we being introduced to this guy? I thought it was like a costume he was wearing for the stakeout. And then as the movie goes on, oh no, this is his thing.
When they first, because I just remember when we first see him, he's like talking to the cop that come out of the police station or something. I thought he was either undercover or going into like witness protection or something. Because it was like, that's obviously a wig. And they're not saying anything about it being a wig in the movie. So I guess, you eventually figure out it's not supposed to be a wig in the movie, but I thought, he was undercover or something.
Speaking of that scene when he's talking to the partner, I feel like there's a throwaway line that shouldn't be a throwaway line. It's sort of referenced later, but it really bothers me for a scene coming up. He is just arriving to town.
Yeah.
Just now, knows no one, does not know that cop in the helicopter.
Well, he gets to know her very well in a minute.
Yeah.
Because he's
okay. Yeah, that's true. I didn't pick up that because I assumed that they were like seeing each other or something. I forgot that he'd only been there for like 0 minutes.
Yeah. Has only talked to her over a walkie-talkie, and she goes home with him immediately.
Well, that's every woman that conversation.
Apparently,
like the conversation over the walkie-talkie where she's like, "Hey, keep it up," and he's like, "You keep it warm."
Keep it warm.
He's like, "It's warm and ready," and I'm like, ha ha ha, a lot of innuendos. And then like right after this scene, we cut to sexy time, and I was like,
I laughed because at the end of the scene, there's like they catch the bad guys, whatever, and at the end of the scene, he says to her, like she's still in the helicopter, he's like, "Oh, I'll see you back at your place." And I was like, he's being funny. He's making like a stupid little joke. And then it cuts to them literally in bed and she's on top of him naked. And it's like, oh, okay. I guess he was literally saying, let's go back to your place right now and get sex.
Yeah, I mean, this went from like just casual 80s/90s sexual harassment at work to like, oh, no, this is really happening.
Yeah.
Okay. One of my favorite lines during that opening stakeout/chase is he radios her and he says, try to stay out of sight. And I'm like, she's in a helicopter. What does that mean?
If she's out of sight, she can't see him. So what's the point?
Well, they had to get a few other pieces of dialogue besides shoot them, shoot them.
Yeah.
Shoot them, because that's all he says throughout the whole chase.
Yeah. I did laugh when he said that though, because I was thinking like right before that, like, how are these bad guys not going to notice that a helicopter is following them? Because they're presumably
he's staying back.
Low.
He's staying back so that they don't notice. He says,
like, if they're following him, like, you're going to be able to tell a helicopter's following.
How do you hide a helicopter?
Yeah.
I'd also like to drop a piece of trivia here that may not be surprising to anyone who's seen the movie, that in many cases, the actors were using their own cars.
Yes.
Which is why that, like, we're seeing this, like, because I'm like, man, that Caprice is pretty beat up. And it's like clearly just somebody's actual car in 1991. Yeah, so then we end up in this, like, no dialogue. So the drug transaction goes down. Their terrible stakeout plan doesn't prevent it from happening.
Yep.
And then they're like, okay, we're just going to chase the van after they've already successfully made their drug transaction that we missed. And we get this, like, it's essentially like a no dialogue car chase, because it's just music. And the samurai cop saying to his partner, shoot. And they just keep cutting back to him saying that. Or also the great line of, let's call for backup. We'll call them when we need them. It's like, dude, you clearly need them. Like, this has already gone badly.
Well, it's funny too. We were talking earlier before we started recording that how, like, it seems like sometimes when they're firing the guns, like, there's actual consequences, like squibs and things breaking. Other times they're just shooting at each other and shooting at things and nothing's ever being hit. And in this scene, like, they're like 5 feet behind the van in front of them. There's a guy like hanging out the back of the van and he's shooting into the windshield, like right at a wig guy and samurai cop. And like the windshield, like there's never any, like, you know, holes in the windshield, or windshield, you know, breaking open, or him getting hit, or anyone getting hit. It's just like, he just like keeps looking, shoot him.
And he's dodging bullets while he's driving.
Yeah. My favorite stunt in this is not the first guy that he shoots, but the second bad guy who gets shot, who is already leaning out of the van, gets shot, and then literally propels himself out of the side of the van, clearly for the actor or stunt person's own safety. But it's like, oh my God, why would a dying man
I thought that too, because he's
out of the van?
It's not like he gets hit and falls out. He like gets hit, like sits there for like 3-4 seconds, and then just like jumps out of the van and rolls down a hill. And it's like, yeah, why wouldn't you stay in the van?
A lot of people in this movie will sustain chest shots and then just be like, oh, and then keep shooting. Like, they'll shake it off. Like, he got shot in the leg.
Which one is the guy that gets run over in the horrible cut of?
Is that in the scene?
I think so.
Oh yeah, no, it's the guy with the TV jacket we were talking about. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, he falls out the back of the. You go ahead, because
he falls out the back of the van, and you see the samurai cop's car go right up to him.
Yeah.
And then it cuts to, like, the guy after the car has gone over him. He's got a line of blood on his chest and on his knees, and he's just like rolling around. I was like, wait, did he just get run over? What did they just skip the run over part? And yeah.
That was how they. And then I think Samurai Cop's like, "Oh man," too. Afterwards, like he didn't.
There's an amazing insert shot where he's kind of like, "Ooh," like, "Oh no!"
And then his partner's just like, "Just keep going. We got to get him."
And then I want to think about this. So now they've shot the two bad guys who were shooting at them at the van. They pull up to the van and they shoot the driver. A driver who has not shot at them, has not produced a weapon. They're just like basically start unloading into this guy who all he has done has been driving a getaway vehicle.
Yeah.
They unload into him. is the van crashes. We get this wild man on fire effect. Where
He's on fire. He's on fire. Put him out. He's on fire. Oh my God, he's on fire.
Well, they say, I had to go back and write this. They're like, he's burning. We have to do something. I'm like,
shoot him,
kill him.
Yeah.
You know?
I honestly thought they were going to shoot him just to put him out of his misery. Like, and it's funny because it made me laugh because like this whole movie, they're straight up just murdering people.
Oh yeah.
But like one point later on, like late in the movie, Samurai Cop's about to kill someone, and his partner's like, "No, Joe, you're a cop." And it's like, I seen you murder 18 people in this movie. Yeah.
Well, even after this one, where they have essentially murdered all 3 suspects and burned up the van with the evidence, the helicopter cop goes over the radio. She's like, "Good job, guys. Time for a celebration." Like,
Yeah.
what? This is a good job.
Well, they saved the guy who was on fire, so he survived. So that's the reason.
I noticed as the actors are really putting out a real fire, that wasn't a stunt team. The actors are doing it. The stuntman who was on fire briefly looks at the screen.
Yeah.
And if I remember correctly, the guy they shot was was Asian, right?
No, I don't think the driver was.
The white guy, right?
No, the driver was a white guy, I think.
He was? Okay, because I thought, wait a minute, wasn't that an Asian guy? Because he quickly hides his face. He looks at the camera and then quickly hides his face.
I'm sure it was a different guy than
It's a different guy.
Yeah.
I feel like they
I wasn't paying close attention to the driver, but nonetheless, you could see them try to hide the stuntman's face.
they play fast and loose with race, with stereotypes, with any of it, because is Robert Z'Dar supposed to be a Japanese man in this movie?
His name is like an Asian name, but I don't know if that's just a nickname or something. Because he's like
that's true.
Yashimito or something.
He's like Yamashita, I think,
yeah.
and he acts like a samurai, and he's supposed to follow the code of samurai, but he's clearly
not
an Asian man, and half of the katana gang is not Asian men.
Yeah, I wasn't sure if like he was just like in the gang and they gave him like a Asian, nickname or Japanese name or whatever. But yeah, they never really established that.
Yeah, I was really like, is the character co-opting Japanese culture, or is the movie like co-op? Like someone's doing.
Could be either.
I couldn't figure that out.
So after this scene too, well, from this scene it goes right to that the sex scene with the helicopter cop, which is like it goes on and on and on. Like this is why I was saying before we were recording that like partway through this movie I felt like this was meant to be a softcore porno movie that they like just ended up turning into an action movie, because like there's 3-4 sex scenes that go on like way too long and are very graphic. So long.
I fast forwarded. I got super bored.
Yeah. They don't get away.
But so they go into this whole sex scene. It takes like, like 3 solid minutes or something. And then I think they go back to Robert Z'Dar and the gang, or so they go back, someone, I think as Robert Z'Dar and the gang, and someone says that about this Joe guy that they call him Samurai Cop, or they call him Samurai because I think maybe he's good at fighting. And then they say that he's fluent in Japanese, but they never, ever, ever use that in the movie. Like at no point is someone speaking Japanese and he's like, oh wait, I understand what they said, or is he speaking to anyone in Japanese or anything like that?
Yeah, we never. It's not even really clear why they call him Samurai Cop. It's like, I don't know why they don't isn't just known as like martial arts cop or karate cop. Like it's nothing about him seems to actually be samurai.
The only thing that came out of it was that he knew what katana meant when they asked like, what's katana? He's like, it's a Japanese sword. It's like, okay, I guess he's fluent in Japanese.
I also don't think anyone ever actually calls him samurai, do they?
Once or twice, someone
does to like taunt him.
They're like, I don't know if they ever say it to him, but like they refer to him as like samurai sometimes.
Okay.
But like maybe twice in the movie. It's not like,
where's the address of the Samurai Cop?
It's not enough to warrant this movie being called Samurai Cop, I think. But
yeah, or really even for him in the world of this movie to be called Samurai Cop. Like in reality, they'd be like, hey, where's that long-haired cop? Like that's what everyone would be saying.
Where's Wig Cop?
Yeah.
Yeah, they could have shown him like training, like in martial arts or something, or like in his spare time, like
flashback where he was raised in Japan or something.
Yeah, like on the beach in his Speedo, or like doing some martial arts moves or something. They never even do anything like that.
Nothing. Yeah. So then the crime boss is meeting, and he's like, he doesn't like surviving surviving accessories. I don't know. If you fail, he wants you dead. He doesn't want you to be able to like testify against him. So he goes to the crime boss, does this whole thing with Robert Zadar where he's like, I want you to find that guy. He's very specific. He's like, I want his head on this piano. And I'm like, okay. I mean, that's a very specific thing.
How he does it.
Yeah. I mean, it's like, do you want to like taxidermy it? Like what, how is that going to work? But I was like, okay. Just an oddly specific request. Yeah. And then we cut to Samurai Cop and his partner are at a dental office / burn unit where the surviving, burn unit driver guy is. And I mean, you really want to say to them, like, you couldn't even change the scene or the sign that says dental office that shows up in so many shots. I mean, that sign is in like easily like 15 shots, like.
Well, I mean, his lips were missing, so maybe they had to do some dental work.
I guess.
And that's the sole reason why this guy can't talk. His lips were burned.
And a few, just give him a few hours, though, he'll be able to talk.
Yeah.
And I was commenting in our chat. This is another one of those great movies from this era where that typifies like women cannot stop throwing themselves at the main character.
Well, and the main character can't stop throwing himself at every woman he meets too. Correct.
And you just end up with the scene with the nurse in the burn hospital. I mean, I was watching this being like, what is this? Was this scripted? Like, what happened here? Like,
and this goes on long too. This whole exchange.
Really long.
Yeah. Down.
I can guarantee you, no matter how attractive a man is, I have never had this conversation. Ever.
You mean you never asked a random guy if he were circumcised?
Well, I was more thinking of do you like me?
Yeah.
Do you?
Yeah. Do you want this? Do you want that?
Yeah, that part. I mean, I've also never asked a random man circumcised, but I was more thinking of the first part of the conversation.
As a man, I would be.
This made my stomach turn.
Yeah.
I was like, oh God.
As a man, I would be very uncomfortable in this situation too. If a woman was talking to me like this in a doctor's office,
like that to me, I would be like, I gotta go. Yeah. I got a thing.
This is like in a professional environment. There's like a guy in critical condition, like 4 feet away.
Right.
And then, when finally she's like, ooh, would you like to have sex with me? And Samurai Cop picks up her stethoscope and is like, bingo. Who on the day was like, yep, we got it, moving on. Like, this is nuts.
Oh, sorry, we have to talk about this. I apologize. It has to be brought up.
Well,
we had to watch it.
Yeah,
we had to watch it. Yeah,
I should say too. For part of this movie, my wife was sitting next to me on the couch. She was doing other things, like on her phone or whatever. But she's like, "I'm not watching this movie." But just from what I hear, the dialogue in this movie is just insane. Like, yes, I can't remember if she was there for that scene or not. But it was later on in the movie. She's like, "This dialogue is just insane and atrocious." Like,
that just goes for the whole movie.
Yeah. The whole thing, every line.
We've got to talk about the bad guy's scheme to get in and see the burn victim, which both seems incredibly dumb and overcomplicated.
Oh God, yeah. And I don't know if it's entirely. I mean, we'll get to it.
Well, so
the two cops, Samurai Cop and his partner. I can't remember what the partner's name is. But they tell this uniform officer outside of the dental office to make sure no one goes into that room except for doctors and nurses. And he's like, okay. And so they leave. And then like 2 seconds later, a woman comes in pushing like a janitor's cart basically. And she's going to go into the room and the cop's like, oh no, ma'am, you can't go in there. Sorry. And she's like, oh, I got to change the garbage. The trash can. Is that all right? And he's like, okay, sure. And lets her in. So she wheels this janitor's cart into the room and takes a sheet off. And then Robert Zadar comes up out of the cart. And it's like, how is she pushing that cart with Robert Zadar in it?
He was definitely so not casually in that cart when she was pushing it either time.
She was pushing so casually. And she's got like this 200-something pound man just like crouched down inside it.
It's also worth noting, Robert Zadar is dressed as a
It's
doctor.
a doctor. Yeah.
Like he probably like this could have just walked in and been like, I'm a doctor. Like
Absolutely.
rather than,
Yeah.
you know, I mean, I imagine a world where he's, you know, the cop's like, all right, I'll let you in. I just got to check what's in the car. What the hell? You know?
Right. Yeah, because if he was a decent cop, he might have just checked under that sheet and seen what was under there. But
Yeah.
so then Robert Zadar comes out of the cart and takes out a katana and just slices off this guy's head, the burn victim, and then puts it in.
A little excessive.
Yeah.
Seems a little
With a
excessive.
sound effect that is like right off one of those like Halloween sort of like records or tapes that are just like gross sound effects that you would see. Like it's just, you know,
But-
stock audio of
Yeah.
something being cut.
But that's funny because then he like takes the head and he puts it in the trash can that's in the cart, and then he's got like blood all over his hands. So he like gets back in the cart without like using his hands. Like he doesn't want to get blood on anything. So he like gets back in and scoots down, and it's just so goofy.
If I was that red-haired lady, I would be like, I don't, what a awful, she'd be like, are you
Yeah.
kidding me? Like,
Yeah.
what a terrible job.
Her
you
job
know?
is not to think.
No, just to push the cart.
Yeah, push the cart around.
Yeah.
And then there's a sequence here, which is where I involuntarily like blinked. It is maybe the worst jump cut I've ever seen in a production that was made with money. In it, we get a shot of her going down a hallway, pushing the cart. And then we get the camera was moved like 4 inches. And then it is police or security coming down the same hallway, but it's from the same side, I was like, like my eyes hurt looking at that.
It's not a well edited movie.
No,
I'll say that.
no. I still also don't know why hospital security even targets her, because the cop goes in and he's like, this guy's head's been cut off, call security. But I don't even know how they.
Well, I assume it's because he saw her go in. He's the one who let her in the room, the cop.
Yeah.
He knows that she went in the room, and then all of a sudden this guy's head was missing. So
I guess so, but there's
he's a
also,
bad cop, but I mean, at least he put that together.
Yeah, I mean, that's part of me where I was like, at that point, why didn't Robert Zadar just get out of the cart then?
Right.
Like,
Yeah.
you know, if they were going
Could
to
have put her in the cart, and he could have gotten out and pushed the cart the rest of the way. And
or something like she's gonna be like, oh my God, we're trying to escape, and I gotta push Robert Zadar around. Like, you know, like at the point where people seem to already be onto them.
yeah,
We get a bunch of like hospital foolishness of like, you know, like I don't know, like at some point Robert Zadar does get out, he punches a bunch of guys. Like the hospital seems to empty out into an apartment complex. They seem to be like going
It
like
did look like not a hospital at all once they get out of it. But I feel like so much of this movie within scenes changes location.
yes.
oh yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, they'll shoot half of it in one location, half in a completely different one. Pretend it's the same place.
Yeah. This is where we do find out that Samurai Cop has been in town. He's been in LA for 1 week from San Diego. And we get my favorite character in the movie, who is the police chief.
Mhm.
I loved every scene with the police chief, who just instantly in his scenes takes his anger to 11 and somehow escalates it from there within the scene, where you'd be like, there's no way he can get out of this scene, and yet he does it every time. It's pure gold. In the first scene, he's like, I don't know, he's yelling at them. He's like, you know, you've been killing everybody. You know, I'm gonna kill you, you sons of bitches, get out of here. And then Samurai Cop's partner goes in and kisses the chief on the head. And he's like, get back here. I'm gonna kill you, you mother effer, son of a bitch. And he's pointing at him. And then the camera just hangs on the chief until clearly the actor playing the chief finally broke and like starts to smile.
Yeah, because like he doesn't know what to do. He's like, okay, scene's over. They haven't said cut. So he like slowly sits down and then starts laughing. It's like
he took it so hard, and he was like, I don't know where to go from here.
Which implies the chief's not a bad guy after all. He's just a bit of a douche sometimes. He's like, those sons of bitches, and he laughs about it.
But that's not what it's supposed to be in the movie, though.
I know.
I mean, his best scenes, like the next chief scenes, are even better than this scene. But
Yeah. Well, and so I don't get, because so he starts yelling about like basically you've been here for a week and you haven't like brought down the Japanese gang members yet. Like yeah, like that was kind of like the crux of his argument. Like, well, I have to give you another week to do this. It was like,
how much time do you need?
Yeah, you literally just got here.
And is this where they get the tip that they're like, hey, somebody saw that crime boss at a restaurant?
Maybe.
Is this
That's right after they talk to the chief, they go back out into the bullpen and there's another cop character that tells them that.
With the thing on his nose or under his nose, whatever that was.
Yeah. And they go up to the restaurant. I loved in a movie loaded
this was
with
insane
dialogue. I mean, this is incredible. They just walk in and they're like, are you Fujinama? And he's like, who are you? And he's like, I'm a cop. I'm like, okay.
And they're all like, oh my God, it's a cop.
Yeah. Like, why?
This restaurant scene is a great example of something I feel like happens throughout the entire movie, where every cutaway or reaction shot looks like it was filmed in a completely different location than the actual scene.
In this scene, like, I was reading it. This one actually definitely was.
Oh, it was.
Like,
the stuff in the chief's office always looks at basically anytime the partner, I think his name is Frank. Anytime Frank is on screen on his own, I feel like they shot all of those in one day at the end of the shoot, like in a completely different location than anything else.
I think you're pretty. Oh God, sorry.
There's different lighting. The background doesn't look like it. Eye lines never match up. It's bad.
Yeah, because I was reading the stuff with like Robert Zadar and the gang was in a restaurant, and then the stuff with Joe is actually like in an office, like the director's office or something, like months later. So you're pretty dead on with that.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah. But so this scene is basically, again, he meets a woman and is immediately like, who are you? Like, I'm going to take you home. And so they wrap up their conversation. I can't remember what they basically like, I'm going to get you or whatever. And they go over to like a waiter, like a host or whatever for the restaurant, which this gets insane. And he's basically asking this guy like, who's that girl and what's her deal and all this stuff, and he's like such a bad, like stereotypical gay
wow, I mean, this is really like what this script and what this actor is doing.
Well, I don't know if it's the act, because I was reading also that they shot most of this movie, or a lot of it, without sound, right, and then dubbed in voices just from other actors. Yeah. So this probably wasn't even this actor. It's probably someone else that they said, hey, do like a gay voice over this guy's.
I will drop another bit of trivia here that may not surprise you. The guy who played Samurai Cop said that 80% of the dubbing you hear in this movie is the director.
Yeah,
yeah, I believe it.
So I can see the director just doing this like over the top, like offensive gay affect on this guy's performance.
Oh yeah,
I mean it's bad.
Even for the time, it's bad. Even like, I mean, it's a nightmare by modern standards. It's very, very bad even by like early 90s standards. Oh. And so then they go outside, and for some, I didn't really understand the bad guys thinking, but they go outside, and then Robert Zadar is like, haha, now we'll try to kill you. Like, because in the restaurant, the crime boss was like, not here. But then as soon as they walk outside, Robert Zadar starts like it's like a clown car. Like thugs just start like piling over this like porch railing to go after Samurai Cop and his partner.
So this is the shootout in the parking lot then? Is that what this is? Okay.
This is the shootout in the parking lot. Or as I have in my notes in this scene, someone actually let them get footage with a machine gun, like they got Robert Zadar clearly is in one spot, like with the machine gun, but they were like firing a machine gun, and they're like, you gotta do something with that.
Yeah. And but it's funny because some of these thugs go up and start like assaulting these officers, basically pointing guns at them and like trying to fight them, and then they start arresting them for like assaulting police officers. But something you typically don't see in an action movie. They're like, you're under arrest for attempting to assault a police officer, whatever. So then Robert Zadar pulls out his machine gun and starts just firing. And he totally lights up his own thugs and just like blows them away.
Yeah,
because they're like in handcuffs, like they can't go anywhere. He's just like bam, 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 as the cops go and hide.
And
Is
I'm
this
pretty
okay?
sure the actors playing those thugs that all get killed, I think they come back later on as other
Oh.
thugs.
I'm sure they do. Yeah.
Yeah. There's
This
a
where,
guy
this where we get our arm chop.
oh yeah, well, yeah, that's crazy. When he picks up a sword and we're asked to believe that he cut off a guy's arm by throwing a sword at. Can you imagine like throwing a sword at something so it could cut through the bone of a guy's arm? That was
He's a samurai.
we then get my next I cannot talk enough about the chief. So they get back to the police station and the chief is talking with the lawyer for the crime boss and like everyone's yelling and freaking out, but again, like I would believe 100% that the actor playing the chief, every time they shot, he just said, don't worry about it, I'll figure it out, just roll camera and I'll figure it out.
Just give me a bump of cocaine and let me go.
Let me go. And he was just, and they were like, do you know how you're going to end the scene? And he was just like, don't worry about it, I got it. So he just keeps escalating this argument with like the crime boss's lawyer. And to wrap things out, he throws the lawyer out of his office and goes, get a job. Like, what? Get a job.
Well, I like to, so here, I think most of this movie was shot in one takes, like in the first take, because in a few scenes it happens here, like someone like either jumps their line or it flubs their line and has to like go back or stammer over it or something. Yes. And it kind of happens here because as the chief is like yelling at this lawyer, the lawyer is trying to get his line in and he keeps like kind of starting his line, but he has to wait until the chief like gets his next tirade out and then he says like, I'll see you in court or whatever, and then he walks out. But he like, you can tell, you see him trying to say it a few times before that, where he's like got his line to say, but you can tell the chief's just kind of going off on his thing. And and then no one said like, can we try that again? Because I kind of jumped my line there, but.
And the chief was going like, I'm not letting that guy have the last line. And we just ended with like, what can I get a job? we then get Samurai Cop is like, hey, I think I've got more harassing to do of that lady who owns the restaurant. I mean, I have harassed her, but he's like, I feel like there's still more to do there. So he goes back to the restaurant to harass her, where all of my notes then become, the cinematographer could not get enough of that stuffed lion, that like fabric stuffed lion on the wall. There's like actually a point where the camera pans to it. Yeah. Where like, is this gonna be like a plot point or something? Like they can't get enough of that lion.
It's at the end of the scene, he walks out of the frame and they like pan over to readjust so that the lion head is back in it, like behind her. It's like, why are they trying to get that in?
Yeah,
I feel like that was someone trying to get something artistic in because so many of the backgrounds are just like blank walls.
Yeah.
Like there's 2 times in the movie where they actually do like a rack focus thing. I'm like, oh, somebody was really trying one day for 5 minutes.
There's a couple of shots in this movie that are like well composed, or like there's actually a shot where the red-haired lady is pushing the cart down the hallway in the hospital, where I'm like, wow, this is actually like a tough shot to get. She's pushing the cart, the camera clears to be mounted on the cart, she's in really good focus. I'm like, that's a very professional shot that they did. And then other stuff is like, what's going on? Like
those shots are rare.
I think this is the case. I think this is the case of the broken clock. I think it's just occasionally they happen to capture a nice shot.
Could be. Now he leaves her office with this like vague, he basically harasses her into a date.
On her birthday.
And then he leaves, and I could not figure out what the movie was telling us happened, because he leaves her office and then there's a fight in a nightclub. And
what happened? Because he walks out and also he's in like a strip club or something, it looks like.
I wasn't sure if that was supposed to be like part of the restaurant in like the middle of the day before it opens for the evening. It made no sense.
Yeah, it was lit like a nightclub or a strip club. So I thought it was another scene, and I was like, no, I think it was him coming out of her office, and then there's these 3 thugs there.
Yeah, it was very confusing. I did not understand that. And so then they're like, oh, okay. Oh, and then he's actually able to, for the first time in the movie, he doesn't kill a suspect. And that suspect's, he's like, who sent you? And he tells him it's like, it's the crime. Obviously it's the crime, it's that same crime boss.
Yeah.
So they're gonna go do a raid at the crime boss's house.
Yeah, because the bald guy. Yeah, he just
Yeah.
because he tells me, he's like, "Who's that?" And he's like, "He's the bald guy." It's okay.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
Right. And we get this great line that, like, by modern standards should make everyone shiver a little bit as they're like setting up for this raid. And one of the cops says, how do we know if this is the right house? And the other cop is like, if it's not, we'll just apologize. Standard police procedure. I was like, whoa. Whoa.
He's gonna burn my ass.
We'll
Yeah,
go in
yeah.
and we'll start
I know.
shooting.
It's already black.
Yeah. There's a
What?
lot of this movie felt like a parody in that, like, the lines between, because it's like a buddy cop movie, partially with Joe and Frank, and like the back and forth kind of one-liners they have are so bad and so just like poorly written and not funny that it feels like almost like a parody of buddy cop movies, but it's not, I don't think.
This is like, clearly Lethal Weapon was a big inspiration on this movie.
Yeah.
But they like didn't take any of the right stuff from it, or
Yeah.
any of the, like,
Because like later on, like he goes under, like Frank like goes under something, and Joe's like, "Why'd you go under that?" And he's like, "Because I'm an undercover cop." And I was like, "What? That's not even funny." Like,
It doesn't even fit what they're doing. They're not undercover at all in this movie. At no point do they do anything that's even remotely undercover.
yeah,
yeah, I mean, you kind of want to be like, look at Lethal Weapon and go, yeah, this is why you want your script written by Shane Black. This is why you want to have an actor like Danny Glover. This is where, you know, like,
Yeah.
this is the difference this stuff makes.
Yeah, yeah.
So there's kind of this big fight scene in that the bald mobster guy's house,
I love this.
which results at one point in that mobster jumping through a glass window in his own home.
yes.
I don't
Head
know
first.
it's his own home. Why is he jumping through a window?
He has to go and get dressed first though, because the scene starts with him and a woman in bed where they're about to have sex. Because of course, this movie,
Yeah.
that's how it has to start.
Also, is this the scene where like Joe and Frank are coming in through the sliding glass door, but they like
Yeah.
stand there for a minute and watch him having
Yeah.
sex with his girlfriend?
It's a
Yeah.
porno. God, no.
Yeah.
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 And then I laugh too, because like his plan is to go through this glass, open the glass door and be like, freeze or whatever. But he goes to open the glass door and it's locked. But he's like yelling at the guy, like, stay right there, police or whatever. But he like can't open the door.
Yeah.
So then this guy has a chance to get up and run out and like get dressed and then jump headfirst through his own window.
Yeah. Their raid is stumped by the fact that someone had locked a door, you know. So crazy.
This is my favorite. They chase him down. They chase him down into this wooded area, and he says, "Throw down your gun. Let's fight like a man." And then all of a sudden they're fighting, and then all of a sudden they're in like what looks like a rock quarry or something. Like literally, it's just like they go from a forest to not. And I'm like, where the hell are they?
Yeah.
Then he tosses him into the next. I'm like, what?
Yeah. Well, this scene is clearly probably some reshoots because all of a sudden he has the wig on. And in one shot in this fight, you can see the wig come off of him. Like that, the bald guy like pulls him or something. And the wig like comes flying off. He like quickly like puts it back on his head. And that ended up in the movie.
There's a lot here where I think you're right. This was all one take stuff, and they were trying to like ad lib dialogue. Because after it's over, I think it's the partner who says like, "Well, this one's dead too, not captured alive." I'm like, "Yep,
There's another way. Yeah.
yep, that's what dead means." You know,
Another one not
like that's just a weird thing to say.
Yeah.
You know.
It was right around here that I actually just started feeling awful for these actors, that this movie is still around and that they have to deal with the consequences of them taking a job. I just felt bad for them.
Well, I think this is the only thing that the main actor has ever really done. He did this, and then he did Samurai Cop 2 in like 2000 something.
Can't believe
Like
there's a
years later.
sequel.
Yeah. So this is like his only thing, which is even worse.
Yeah, it's really like, well, and then I'm trying to remember when this happens, when they're trying to chase people down, but then we get a thing that I would never have believed would exist in a movie, but a Robert Zadar sex scene.
Well, but going into this though, this is where, so before this, there's like a shootout, And like basically in the middle of this shootout, it just cuts to a woman standing with a robe on, and then she takes it off and she's completely naked, and then she gets into bed with Robert Zadar,
Yeah.
and they basically just kind of like fondle each other for like a minute, and then the phone rings.
And you're right. The edit on this, Samurai Cop jumps off a roof.
Yeah.
Cut to a woman taking off a robe. I was like, wait, what?
Yeah. It's like action into just sex scene.
Yeah. I mean, no transition, like no pace. I was like, what happened?
Yeah.
It's pretty disturbing.
Yeah.
So then we get the movie is kind of then starts stealing the storyline of Lethal Weapon 2, where Robert Zadar starts going after the other cops. And he kills that older cop.
Pretty brutal scene.
Yeah,
it's poorly executed and not good special effects, but I mean, in concept, it's brutal.
I'm trying to remember what was
this is the one where they like hold the wife at knife point.
Okay, yeah.
As an excuse to get her topless for a second there.
Yeah.
And like every other woman in this movie, and then they end up slicing her neck and killing the other cop.
Do they kill the cop though, or they just kill his wife?
They stab him and he like crawls to his wife.
Okay, yeah. I just assume that he's because it was brutal though, because it was like they like basically like rip her shirt open. They have a katana to her throat, and he's like, "Please don't hurt my wife," and then they just slit her throat.
Yeah.
It was like, Jesus Christ.
And he's genuinely like, I don't know where Samurai Cop lives. I don't like him.
Yeah,
like,
he's been here for a week. He probably has a hotel room, so he's still staying. And like, I don't know.
Yeah. I also determined there is one actress in this movie who doesn't have to do a topless scene, and that one actress is the receptionist at that gunfight that's shot at like the film editing lab, and the one who like presses the alarm button. She's the only woman who appears in this movie who does not have to do a topless scene or worse. I was like,
I did remember. I was thinking the same thing of like, wow, no woman in this movie goes without a sex scene or being topless, but the love interest mom has a short scene too.
Oh, that's true. Yeah. You're right about
that. So there's 2 women.
That's true. Yeah.
Out of 7.
Well, I think she's aged out though of what they would have do a sex scene, but
you never know.
Yeah. But I did so is this where they go to the film? Or no, that's later on the film lab, right?
I think they'd actually
so right now. Maybe. Yeah. So right now, so they go in that cop's house. Yeah, they kill his wife and stab him. Then they go to the helicopter cop's house. Yeah. And they like hold her down. I was shocked they didn't rip her shirt off.
Me too.
That's where I thought it was going.
Yeah.
But that's where it was going too.
I was glad she actually put up a fight for a second.
Yeah. She was like cooking, so they like pour the hot grease from the pan like onto her stomach or something to get information from her. And I think she might tell them or I can't remember what she tells them.
I think she tells them. I think they went to Frank's house first.
Okay.
They held the knife to his little Frank.
Yeah.
So they go to Frank's house.
Even though he was clearly wearing a Speedo.
Oh, you can see it.
Yeah. They go to Frank's house and he just got out of the shower. So they like grab him and he talks about his ass like so much in this movie. He's like, "Oh, you want to inspect my butt or something like that?" Or it was like, okay. So they grab him and they threaten to cut off little Frank or to give him the information. He ends up getting the upper hand and kills both of them, and then tries to call Joe, but like can't get a hold of Joe just to tell him that they're after him.
Because intercut with all of this, Joe and the woman who owns the restaurant, they've been swimming in Speedos. We've just gotten like a series of montages of them swimming in Speedos.
Well, it starts out with him kind of stalking her because he found out that she told him that she was going to be going to church on Sunday. So he goes to her church. By the way, I don't think any girl would go to a church in a dress that it's clear she's not wearing a bra. I feel like no woman in this movie wears a bra. So he takes her back to his house after church.
He tells her that he's got to interview her.
Oh, that's right.
So he's going to interview her in his car and then takes her to his house.
Oh.
So it's very unethical, but
Yeah. And then somehow she has a bathing suit when she just came from church.
I'm sure he keeps them around.
Yeah.
He brings enough women to his house that I'm sure has a bikini.
Yeah.
But so then they go to the helicopter cop's house and get the information from her, and she tells them where Frank lives or where Joe lives. And at this time now, Joe has brought, because it's this girl's birthday. I can't remember this girl's name, but
Jennifer.
It's her birthday, so he like has a cake for her. She's in her bikini, he's in his Speedo still, and he like brings a cake out, and she's like, oh, a cake. He's like, it's your birthday, you gotta have a cake. And he puts the cake down and then picks her up and brings her to a bed. And they just start foreplay for 3 minutes straight.
This is Cody. What's the movie where a birthday cake with candles is being used to light? Like they're actually using it to try to.
Fear No Evil, I think it was.
Fear No Evil.
Yeah.
If you had told me you're going to get a weirder scene with a birthday cake than that movie, I would have said it's impossible. But this film did it.
Yeah. So they start. They're going at it basically, and then they cut away to something. And then cut back, and now they're finished, and the phone rings again, and it's Frank on the phone, and so he finally gets a hold of Joe, and he's like, "Get out of the house, man!" And he's like, "Why?" And he's like, "Just get out of the house." And he's like, "Why do you want me to get out of the house?" He's like, "Just get out. I'll tell you later." And he finally tells him like, "They're after you," and he looks out the window. He's like, "Oh, they're already here." And then they get dressed quick, and then they go off on another chase fight scene.
Yeah, they get dressed so quickly.
Yeah.
I'm like, wait a minute. How did they get back into regular clothes? And I think actually, oh no, she's back in the dress. She's not.
I was going to say, is she wearing something different, or is she?
I feel like there is a scene where she's wearing something different, but I think she's back in the dress.
Okay, it'd be awesome if she was wearing something.
Yeah.
I feel like it would be wrong if I didn't, as we're talking about the editing problems this movie had, about the choice this movie makes to essentially do a naturally occurring wipe, like they go from a close-up of one butt that fills the screen to another butt.
Well, they go from hers, like he carries her towards the camera so that her butt fills the frame, and then they cut to his hairy ass
butt
as he walks away from the camera.
I was like, that's insane. So which also made me go, oh, so they do understand the concept of editing,
of transitions and
So then we get another kind of shootout scene. Like this movie just turns into like him peeking around corners, shooting guns, sometimes with blanks in the gun, sometimes not with blanks in the gun. I got a good laugh out of the guy who gets shot on the diving board, because as soon as I saw the bad guy step on the diving board, I'm like, obviously the stuntman was like, can I fall off the diving board? It would be safer for me than for me to fall into the water off the edge of the pool.
He also doesn't do it he falls on the diving board and then gets stuck on it for a second, then kind of rolls into the water.
Yes, he missed time where he misplaced it just slightly, where he's like, oh, I need to roll a little more.
Yeah. And they're like, we don't have another set of clothes, so we can't do that again, sorry, man.
Yeah.
But what happens a lot in this movie too, which made me laugh every time, is that I think Jack kind of alluded to earlier, was people will get shot.
Yep.
Be like, oh, and then come back up and try to shoot the good guys again. And then they'll get shot again and be like, oh, and then they'll go back and try to shoot him. It's like, just go down, man. Just because then you end up just dying that way. But that happens so many times in the movie where it's like a video game character or something. Like the first shot doesn't take him out, so they can try to get you again, and you got to shoot him again, and it's just so goofy.
It's very funny, and I love that the end of this scene is just Robert Zadar and his team are so disorganized that Samurai Cop and the restaurant owner are just able to get in his car and drive away, with little ramification, and Robert Zadar being like, hey, I think they just drove away.
Yeah, basically. They literally just casually walk in the car and drive up.
Yeah, pretty bad. We then get our final scene with the chief. The chief where he's like, you never bring me anyone alive. I think we're all going to get fired. I'm totally screwed. But you know what? Now I want you to kill everyone. Just kill them all.
Turn his house into a bloodbath.
And they're like, all right, chief. All right, we're going to go get him. He's like, all right, great. See you in hell. This is so good. The way that this guy is just constantly feels the need to put a button on the end of all of his scenes is amazing.
It's so funny because if this movie was a parody movie of buddy cop movies, it would just be brilliant. It would be the best thing ever. But because it's not, it's trying to actually be one of those. It's it's funny in a different way.
Yeah. I think he knows that the movie he's in is the actor playing the
Oh, he's
chief
got it.
knows the movie he's in is insane, and he's like, I am going to do my role as a parody, even if no one else seems to be doing that.
Yeah.
So when does he go to when does he go to the film lab? And why does he go to the film
I think
lab?
we'd already been. I think he was already
Okay.
at the film lab because when he was leaving the film lab was when we did that crazy cutaway from him jumping off the roof to.
Okay.
Oh yeah,
the
yeah,
way-
yeah.
Yeah.
So I
Well, I
think
just want to
we-
mention that scene because like the way I feel like this guy looks like somebody. I was trying to figure out the whole movie, and I think he's just like a very vanilla Sylvester Stallone.
Yeah.
Maybe yeah. It's like it's like a
With Steven
very
Seagal.
vanilla.
Yeah.
Yeah, but he's got like his hair in like a ponytail. And he's got the hat sitting on top of it. He's wearing like a very tight polo shirt and just a t-shirt that says polo on it. And it's just like ridiculous. He looks so ridiculous in the scene.
I will give away our So Wrong It's Right. The
know.
actor was Sylvester Stallone's stunt double on
Was he really?
multiple films, including
that's what I felt
Tango and
like.
Cash.
If
Yeah.
he was a stunt double, I feel like he should be better at stunts than he is in this movie.
Yeah.
And for the film lab scene, is there a reason they're at a film lab? Like what?
I don't
in the
I
world?
don't remember why he was there.
I don't think there was ever any explanation for that.
Security footage?
He was just hanging out with that old guy, maybe they're buddies. I don't know.
Yeah, they never really explained why they were there.
But I also wanted to mention too, because the bad guys come into the security guard's office or whatever she is, like the secretary or whatever. I can't remember what she was, but
There's movie posters on the wall.
they're like, yeah, there's a Roger Rabbit poster on the wall. And
Yeah.
they like are asking her basically like, where's Joe or whatever. And she's like,
And
oh,
halfway to the list.
but she's got like the silent alarm thing, like you'd have like a bank, but it's on the wall, very visible, like 4 feet away from her. So she has to like very slowly and like not very inconspicuously like reach over and push this button. And the bad guys somehow don't notice that she's pushing this alarm.
Mhm.
I just thought that was silly because it's like, why would you have the alarm like
It
pinned to
is
the
really-
wall?
It's really weird. And again, there is a henchman who's staying with her who just seems to be like completely unaware of this. I don't know why they left the henchman there. I don't know.
He's about as competent as the cop that was left in the hospital to watch over the burn
Yeah.
victim.
Yeah,
Who just wanted to
It's-
flirt with that nurse there, or whatever she
Yeah.
was. Yeah.
it's crazy. So now they're going up to the bad guy's house / compound / like just desert. Like it's very hard to figure out what is going on, and because at times you're like, oh, this is like a mountain house, and at other times
Which-
you're like, no,
which-
it's something else.
Which bad guy though? You talking about Robert Zadar or the other guy?
Well,
Because they kill the
guy.
other guy first. Yeah.
Yes, you're right. They killed the other guy first. I forgot about that.
Yeah.
Yeah, and and this is where right because the main bad guy like shoots the partner,
Which
and then
so this
and
is
then the partner ends up just like standing up and shooting the crime boss, and Samurai Cop and the restaurant owner lady are like totally unfazed, and basically the partner has to be like, hey, are you guys curious why I'm alive? Like no one seems. I was shot in the chest, and they're like, huh? Oh well, yeah. What's going on? He's like, I'm wearing a bulletproof vest. Like,
Yeah.
like
but it went on so long because it's like when he got shot and got back up and shot the other guy, I was like, oh, okay, he's got a bulletproof vest on. But it goes on about this where he's like, that guy should have been smart like me. And they're like, what do you mean? And he's like, you should have been smarter like I am. And they're like, I don't know what you mean. He's like, bulletproof vest. You should have worn one like me. It's like, what are you
are
talking
you
about?
wondering why I'm alive? Yeah.
And meanwhile, when he taps his chest, he's very clearly not wearing anything like thicker or padded. Like the
Yeah.
costume department didn't bother to try.
Yeah.
Yeah,
But it's just
man.
funny because he could have just been like, oh, hey, thank God I was wearing that bulletproof vest. But he like went on with this whole thing. It was like, okay.
Or they could have been like, hey, are you okay? And he could have been like, yeah, I had a bulletproof vest. Like, they have no regard for him until he's like, I guess I will tell you
Yeah.
why I'm okay, since you aren't interested. Yeah.
Oh my God.
Weird. So then they go to the compound to go after
Yeah.
Robert Zadar because somebody's like, all right, it's all done. And they're and Samurai Cop's like, no, Robert Zadar is still alive.
Yeah.
And the chief said, don't leave anyone alive. Said kill everyone. No, he didn't. So they go up to this weird compound where And again, probably because this is a mix of reshoots and the combination of terrible editing and reshoots. I had no understanding of the geography of this scene, where anyone was in relation to anyone else. It appears at times the characters don't have any idea of where anyone is in regards to anyone else.
Yeah.
It's just truly a collection of shots of people shooting at each other, but like from where or what their risk is or like what the danger is unknown.
One of my favorite things happens too. It kind of happens a couple times where like Samurai Cop's about to fight someone like hand to hand or like sword to sword, and then Frank will just like shoot the guy from like far away, and then Samurai Cop's like, "Oh, come on, man."
Yeah, I like that.
He does that in this scene. Yeah,
that's kind of funny. And there's some real like theme park Hollywood stunt show level stuff. Like as soon as I saw that guy go up on the roof, I'm like, this guy's definitely falling off this roof. Like it's 100% that this guy's like, I can do a fall off a roof.
Yes.
It's
probably not why I want to be in a shootout too, is on top of a roof, like in the open.
Right, where
very clear target.
Yeah. We do get a sword fight between Robert Z'Dar and Samurai Cop where the film is pretty badly sped up.
Yeah.
You can just tell.
Yeah, they sped it up.
Yeah, it's at least 1.5, if not 2, and it's very apparent because everyone's motions are like have that jerky sped up nature to it, where like you're like, no, your head doesn't move that fast. Like you're not, you almost want to say to them like, when you speed up film, like things like your head will also speed up, not just the arms and the swords.
Not sure they understand how film works.
Yeah, it's probably true.
Or they just don't care.
Yeah. And then they started doing the really bad dubbing thing, like from martial arts movies here, where like, like their mouth would move, let's say like one word, but they'd dub it in like a whole sentence. It was like, what? I don't know if that was like a purposeful thing, like a homage to those kind of movies or something, but
I think they just wanted the fight to feel more energetic.
Yeah. Well, it's probably because they were speeding up the film too. And
yeah.
Ultimately Samurai Cop wins, and like,
well, this is where, so yeah, he wins the fight, and then Robert Z'Dar is like, okay, kill me now, because he's a samurai and it's honor or whatever, and so Samurai Cop's like gonna kill him, and Frank's like, no, you're a cop, and it's like, you literally just murdered so many people. Your boss told you to kill everybody, but he's like, oh, I can't do it now, I'm a cop.
There's also so many times in this movie with people with guns where like Samurai Cop will be like, drop it, and the person like one sense to be like, drop it, bang.
Yeah.
Oh, they didn't. There was no opportunity for them to drop it. They were going to be killed either way.
Yep. So Robert Z'Dar takes out like a little dagger or whatever and kills himself, because that's the honorable samurai thing to do.
Yeah. And
so now he's dead.
And he's dead, and it's back to a sexy Speedo party.
Yeah, that's how they end the movie.
The final shot of the movie is water hitting a rock out in the ocean. Yeah. I'm like, that's it. That's. I
think that's symbolic. That's symbolic of the lovemaking that they're about to do.
On a rock.
On that same
so
rock.
Uncomfortable.
Yeah.
No, they had a towel. They had a towel down.
Well, yeah, that solves the problem.
Okay. But I really wanted to see like what happened. Like, did they all get fired? Because they probably should have.
Yeah, what happened with that chief? Like, it really did feel like this movie needed like something at the end, but
I was glad it ended.
Crazy world of this movie. I want to do our so wrong it's right. So the first one is going to be he was a stunt double for Sylvester Stallone. I want to give a quote from actor Matthew Caritas, and he was a bodyguard for Stallone. And this inspired him to pursue acting with a quote from him: "In Sly's world, it's a very rarefied air for the very wealthy. It's intoxicating." At that time, he'd just finished Rambo 3 and Tango and Cash, and spending all that time hanging out with all these celebrities, I decided I wanted to have at least 1% of what he had.
Sure, you got it. He did make a movie with Robert Z'Dar, so he had that in common at least.
He made that. Now, as Cody mentioned, he didn't have much of a career after this, in part because he spent quite a bit of time in jail.
Oh, I didn't know that.
I'm going to give you 3 choices for what led to his initial jail sentence.
I'm assuming cocaine.
Well, no.
Okay.
Was it A, a robbery that ended up in a hot air balloon chase? B, a high-speed chase through the city of Phoenix in a beer truck? Or C, an armed robbery of a Rembrandt?
Those would all make better movie
They still
choices.
painting.
Yeah.
That second one sounds like that scene from Rhodey that we just did.
I was just thinking that, yeah.
Yeah.
I'm hoping that it's the
That
hot
one
air balloon.
sounds
So I'm
plausible.
going with that one.
I was thinking hot air balloon also.
Art theft. I'm going with the art theft.
That seems
It was the art theft.
Oh.
A year after he made this movie, he took part in 1992. He took part in an armed robbery, stealing a Rembrandt painting from televangelist Gene Scott's University Cathedral in Los Angeles. The painting was found in the home of the stunt coordinator from Samurai Cop.
Wow.
Yeah.
So basically, he was that guy's muscle.
Yeah. He went to jail for many years. He was presumed to be dead. And he did an interview with Red Letter Media a couple of years ago, just to be like, hey, I'm still alive.
Yeah, I gotta watch that now. Well, because I was reading, there was another guy who died who had the same name as his stage name, and so everyone assumed that it was him. I don't know why, but
Well, and after he announced he was alive and he did this thing, they kickstarted a Samurai Cop 2, which I started watching, and he's in Samurai Cop 2. Frank, the partner, is back in Samurai Cop 2. And they list an actress who's in Samurai Cop 1 and 2 as Peggy.
she's the helicopter cop was
I think she's the helicopter pilot. Yeah.
Yeah.
They recast I watched the beginning of it. They recast the restaurant owner girlfriend.
I'm sure she saw the movie and was like, nah, I'm not doing another one.
Yeah, they use archive footage of her, but they also recast her.
That's weird.
It's very weird. Yeah. I need to watch the rest of it though. It's even early on. It's also Tommy Wiseau is in Samurai Cop 2.
Oh, of course.
Tommy Wiseau from The Room.
Yeah.
So I think with Samurai Cop 2, they kind of knew what they were making.
Yeah, you would have to.
Yeah. So let's do, is it so bad it's good? Jack, let's start with you.
Yes, this movie is a masterpiece.
Short and sweet. Oh my God. I was getting comfortable in my chair. Short and sweet. Christy, what do you think?
I think yes. I think it was hilarious. But also, like I said, I just started feeling guilty for the actors. My husband reminded me that maybe, just maybe, they're going to get a royalty check for like 25 cents for us watching it. So that made me feel a little bit better. But yes, it is hilarious to watch the awful editing and the wig going back and forth and horrible cutaway shots. It's hilarious.
It's also, I would add, with some of the extra work, there's a scene early on during that first chase. I don't know if you guys remember it, where he pulls the car over to the side of the road and gets out of the car for some reason, but then ends up getting right back in the car. There's a person walking by who clearly was just a person walking on the street in Los Angeles who stops and kind of is like turning and being like, what's going on? Like, it's just a real like, yeah, this wasn't an extra. You were just like, some actual Los Angeles person is in this movie, unbeknownst to them. Cody, what do you think?
Well, I would say, Christy, too, that I'm pretty sure this movie has a pretty good cult following now. So those people are probably.
Oh, good. That makes me feel better. Although that means that more people have seen it. So that they might be more embarrassed. But hopefully they're getting those residual checks.
Hope so.
They might be, but they'll go to like conventions and sign autographs and they'll sell memorabilia.
Oh, good.
Some of them probably. Yeah. But I would say definitely, so bad it's good. I would watch this one again. Just it's so zany. There's not a moment in this movie that's not insane and zany. So I would definitely watch it again.
I'm going to agree with everyone. I'm actually kind of glad I have this on DVD. I mean, because I need to see what kind of special features are in that DVD, and I'm fascinated by it.
It did make me also appreciate the production value of the movies we typically watch, because there are so many things that you just take for granted in a movie, like editing and,
Acting.
Lighting, white balance,
consistency. Yeah.
Writing. Yeah.
A semblance of a script.
Yeah.
With the little things that make a movie come together. I should also note Robert Zadar was going to appear in Samurai Cop 2, but he died right before they started shooting it. But they had
Jack and I saw him at a convention a couple years before he died, and he was not in good shape. So that would have been a feat if they had. I'm curious what they would have done, because he was not in good shape.
Yeah, I do have to say, like, the one compliment I play this movie is like Robert Zadar has a presence. It's a little bit like this in Tango and Cash too. There's like something to him. I mean, he has that unique look to him. And there's something there. I mean, the movie doesn't work at all, but there is a point in me where I'm like, yeah, Robert Zadar has a screen presence that I mean, maybe they make better use of it in Maniac Cop.
Well, interestingly enough, I was just going to say, this is, I think, the movie that's used Robert Zadar the best that I've ever seen him in. Like, usually in a movie, he's like just a thug kind of guy. Like Maniac Cop, he's just kind of a monster. He doesn't really speak or anything. And I can't remember him in Tango Cash exactly what he was, but I think he was just like a thug in that. And I don't know if you ever saw Soul Taker, I think it's called. It's Soul
Taker, baby.
He's just like a monster in that too. But so this is the first thing I've seen him where he's actually like acting. I was like, oh, he's kind of his presence. He's not that bad. I mean,
I mean, in a better made movie, it would be like, oh, Robert Zadar would be like a decent villain in a better made movie.
Yeah.
Probably.
Maniac Cop also has Bruce Campbell and Tom Atkins in it, so they kind of steal the scenes.
Wow. Were they just loading up on people they knew would become cult stars?
Probably, yeah. I think Tom Atkins was already kind of there at the time, but
no, that's true. Yeah. But yeah, this is a pretty fun one. I may watch Samurai Cop 2, so maybe we'll do an update in a future show on what Samurai Cop 2 is actually like. I need to see where they go with it. This is good. All right, we'll be back soon with more crazy movies, probably higher budgeted movies. Okay. Do not want to preview the movie we're going to do next, but Christy did pitch a movie that I absolutely would love to do, and I think if we can all find it, that'll be the one. So we've got a plan. Perfect. All right, we'll see everyone back here next time. Bye.